Welcome back everyone to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Joanna, and on this channel I talk about lifestyle, minimalism, and also a little bit of studying. So in this video I really want to talk about these 8 big things that I learned or realized while studying architecture. It's not really about things that I learned about architecture, but more things that I learned about myself, about how life looks like in reality. I just thought I'm gonna do this video because I'm pretty much at my end of my bachelor's of architecture. There are only some exams I have to pass, but then this year was the last year in that moment that I'm gonna be studying, in a sense. That's why I figured this would be a really nice topic to talk about here on this channel, because I also talk about finding happiness, finding the real lifestyle, the real nice life or a happy life that you want, and this has a lot to do with this. So the first thing that I learned while studying is that studying is a very great opportunity for a career in your life, but it's also time when you're around 20 or until 30 more or less. This is a time that you really want to experience a lot of other things, and sometimes in my perception, or in the perception of many other people that I talk to that are studying, is that while studying you just concentrate so much on just studying and just learning all the time that sometimes you just forget that there are other things that you have to experience. Of course, this is not something that is true everywhere, but as a matter of fact, being at DTH is one of the most difficult and most time-consuming universities. So it's really a thing to find this really nice work-life balance, but in a sense study-life balance. And also it's so important to experience other things in life and not only being a student and don't have any idea about how the world works. So yeah, this is something that I learned and I'm trying to implement in my life day to day, and have hobbies, do other things that interest me, work, and gain experiences in other parts of life and not only being a student and living this carefree kind of life. The second thing that I learned is that you don't really have to follow this normal path that everyone likes people to see you doing, because not always the normal path is the right one for you. And this is something that I've been struggling for the last few years. Being on this path, this normal path, like very linear continuity of studying, that you just go out of school directly onto university without any problems, just go through and just like continue with this path that the further generations before us did. But maybe it's something that is not really true for this time anymore, only this time, but generally maybe there are just other kind of paths that you can take that may be more valuable to yourself, and then rather than just doing the thing that everyone does. And also this leads me to the next point, is that sometimes it's just more important to do what your gut feelings tells you to do, because not everyone wants or not everyone can go on this normal path, because they have another expectations of life, they have different mindsets. So you cannot only listen to people that tell you what you should do, because very often, or most of the times, if you feel it's not the right path, you should do something that you really feel like you want to pursue for your whole life. You want to pursue because it's your interest. And I feel that a lot of people just study because this is the right thing to do. In reality, they would do quite a lot of things, and this requires quite a lot of courage and self-discipline, motivation to try something new, to do something different. To be honest, I never did that as well, but this is just something that I realized throughout studying this in the 3 years, that very often this path is not really what we want, but we still do it because people tell us to do that, or the society or just environment tells us to do these things. But in reality, we maybe don't really want to do that, and then we just have to figure out what is the other thing that we have to do. The fourth thing that I also learned is that it's super important in that kind of age of 20 or more than 20 is to really see other perspectives through other people, and not only the ones that you study with, not only, for example, architecture people or only people that study law with you, but it's very important to still have the connections from like other school, from high school, or also try to meet new people through work, through doing different kinds of activities, just to have these new perspectives of people, because kind of it's so easy to get really like narrow-minded in a sense that you just only see your own perspective from your own field. And it's super interesting to hear the other experiences of people, the other, you know, mindsets and perspectives. Generally, I think this is something that everyone should pursue in their life, because if you know more people, then you can very much easily find a place for yourself, because you try to find like kind of a community of people that like-minded with. It doesn't mean that they have to be the same people that you study with. There are so many other interesting people, and I've learned so many interesting things through them that otherwise I wouldn't. All of this happens through doing additional stuff, to looking for these people, to search for these different connections, and not only staying within your bubble and pretend like there's nothing else on the world. The fifth point is something that's super important that started actually in the first year, and this is the thing that you should not compare yourself to others. And of course everyone does that. I did that very long time, but at some point you have to find out who you really are. And for example, if you feel that you are not really that good as maybe others in this subject, maybe it doesn't really mean that you're worse. Maybe it's not just like not the priority in your life. And this is really interesting and really important recognition in a sense, or it was for me, because I just realized that I'm just a different person. I'm not the same person as my friends, as my colleagues. It's not the same thing. We don't really seek for the same things in life. And then comparing yourself to others, to the people that are like, I don't know, very often we compare ourselves with people that are like super geniuses or like have the best grades, but probably it's not like you couldn't do that. It's just you don't have the same priority as they have. And this is super important for me, because it can really harm yourself in a sense that you feel like you're not enough, but you just have to find the focus in life that you want to put your whole work in, and you're gonna be good at this. Because if you don't care about something, or you don't really want to be 100% included in this thing, you're not gonna be good at it. So this is really something that I realized, and yes, I think it's super important to find this thing and not to compare yourself to others, because you probably will have different focuses, you have a different background or a different goal. So it doesn't make sense to compare yourself to others, because everyone is different. The sixth point is also attached to this kind of, because when I talked about finding your interest, this is something that you cannot probably know from the beginning of your studies or at the end of high school, because you were just only in school. Maybe you worked a little, but you didn't really see that many things. But if you start meeting new people, if you start maybe traveling a little and just see these other things that are in life, and you just realize also in the studies what interests you, what is your interest, and what are the topics that interest you. In that sense, you will find the way that you want to go probably in your life. It can be like sooner or later. For me, it's something that came rather later, but generally throughout the studies you will recognize what kind of things do really interest me and what I don't really care about. And in that sense, within the studies or also within working after that, you will be able to find this focus where you want to go to. Maybe in architecture, for example, somebody cares really about the construction thing and really the technical thing, how to do this and how to improve these things. Or maybe some other people will concentrate on how to do a very sociable housing and think more about the social aspect of these things. Or maybe some other people really think that I don't really care about like buildings, I really want to go into urbanism. And this is something that really crystallizes while you study, and then you will see what kind of direction you want to go. And this is something, maybe I tell it so easily right now, but this is a whole process, and it was a whole process for me as well to know what really interests me. And sometimes I also try to convince myself that something interests me, but in the end it was something completely different. So you really have to follow your heart in a sense and see what really interests you, what aligns with your values, what aligns with your capabilities and strengths, etc. What I also realized, and this is the 7th point, is I talked about having friends and finding new perspectives. But what is also really important while you study, and this thing starts for some people a little bit earlier, for others a little bit later, is that in that time you wanna find your network or your connections of people that you will have in your life, because someday you will not be dependent of your parents. And while studying, most of the times you are still dependent, at least financially, from your parents. But in this time, this sensation of I want to be independent from my parents, emotionally as well, really starts to develop. And you really want to do things on your own, but then you really need these other people. You need friends, you need a community of people, you need acquaintances, colleagues, work colleagues, everyone that will kind of replace this emotional bond that you have with your parents. And this is something that is super difficult, because imagine having this 2 years of Corona thing and not being able to connect with other people. So this poses quite a lot of social anxieties as well, I think. And also in my own perspective, I feel that this is something I really need to work on. And this isn't something easy, but this is something that really starts while you study. Because before, you will never do that. And after studying, it's gonna be super difficult to do this thing. It's also kind of a goal of studying, to have this, this community of people that do the same thing or have the similar views on life, or the people, just to find the people that you like doing things with and that you really care about. Because if you don't care about other people that you do, or that you don't really connect with people, you will not be able to emotionally bind with them, to be emotionally independent from your parents in the result. So the last point, the 8th point, is that I realized that our higher education system is quite flawed and outdated. And this has to do with a lot of parameters, but generally, from my observations and conversations with others and observing myself, I just realized that very often we tend to focus on collecting this ECTS to have the 180 points in the bachelor's, and then we finish and then everything is fine. But the question is, do we really care about what we do inside of this ECTS? Very often we don't. In architecture, very often I don't really care about what we do, I just want to have the credits. If you don't really enjoy doing these things, you will not put the effort in it, you will just go on to the minimum because you just want to have the ECTS, and that means you're gonna pass, and that means you're gonna have the bachelor's. But my question is, do we really care about the things that we have to learn or that we want to learn? Is it something that we want to learn? Because very often I feel like it isn't. Very often I think the things that we learn are all the same whole time. It's repetitive, and we don't really see why we have to learn it, and doesn't really make sense to us very often. And yeah, it's just like we study these things for the exam, 1 week later we forget everything. But for me, studying is not really the point of doing that. For me, studying is something that comes from Latin and means striving or be eager to know something. And that's why I really think studying should be something that you really want to, dive into. This is something that some person, I don't know who it was telling us at the time we had to choose a study direction, that this is really something you want to immerse yourself in, is something you want to know everything about, or almost everything. And in that sense, the ECTS points should not be something that you really care about, it's more like an addition. I really feel this is something that got lost, kind of, that we don't really want to know these things, we don't want to know everything about this or that topic, about this or that direction. And I think this is something quite problematic, because then for us it's just like something that we don't really want to do, and it's something quite annoying to study. Generally, this is quite a problem in our generation, maybe generally. I think this all comes from my critique, that many things that we learn are not up to date, or are not really necessary for us to study, or they just don't make sense. I think all the things like this outdated kind of curriculum thing comes into this problem that we don't really care about what they tell us, because maybe we just don't feel that it's something that we should learn. I just think this is one of the problems of studying, and while studying can be very annoying sometimes. But in a sense, studying still is a fun thing, right? Yes, this is something that you really can feel proud about, kind of, but I'm kind of also very glad that I already almost finished my bachelor's. So on this final note, I just want to say thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. And if you want to know how a day at GATH more or less looks like, even though there was Corona, check out this video here so you can watch it after that. Have a nice day and see you soon.